I remember when John Wick first dropped back in 2014 and the immense popularity and positive reception received right on impact. It seemed like the ultimate movie for people who enjoyed over-the-top action paired with crazy good choreography. Was it grounded in reality? Of course not, but literally everything in John Wick was cool as hell. It gave us a world that was extremely different from what we've seen in traditional hitman movies. Instead of the main character being some emotionless dude, number 50, hired by a mysterious oligarch to take out a high-value target, we get an entire underground world that's been streamlined for hitmen and criminals. From the chain of neutral hotels that can harbor criminals known as the Continental, to the high table that oversaw the world of hitmen, John Wick's world was a breath of fresh air. Hitmen were everywhere, and they all had different alliances with each other. As the John Wick series progressed, we also got to see more and more intricate rules of the world of hitmen that brought it even more to life. We also got to see Wick face different obstacles and continue to outsmart other hitmen in the most bizarre ways possible. Wick himself is the reason why the franchise has been so popular in the first place. It helps that he's portrayed by the most likable actor on the planet, who continues to go above and beyond for his stunts with each of the coming movies. His character is also very easy to get attached to, despite him being the #1 killer on the planet, as we see that all he ever wanted to do was just live a peaceful life with his wife, which then turned into a peaceful life with his dog, which then, well, he never really got peace after that. But what if I told you there's another franchise out there that has a similar kind of grand hitman world helmed by a main character who is also a former hitman trying to live a normal life with his family? Except this time, instead of being an emotionally broken badass, the main character is a puffy father who takes down his enemies using slingshots and jawbreakers. Enter Sakamoto Days, also known as the John Wick of Shonen Jump. Sakamoto Days is a battle shonen manga that's currently serializing in Weekly Shounen Jump. It's written by Yuto Suzuki and started serialization back in November 2020. Over the past 2+ years, it steadily built up a reputation for being one of the most well-illustrated action manga in the magazine at the moment, with its crazy choreography putting some series it's running alongside to shame. Sakamoto Days follows the story of a man named Taro Sakamoto. Immediately upon starting Chapter 1 of Sakamoto Days, it's quickly revealed to us Sakamoto's past. He was the GOAT of hitmen, feared by criminals worldwide before he suddenly decided to retire after he fell in love with a seemingly normal woman named Aoi. Now, he stepped away from the hitman life, had a few too many Twinkies, and began running a convenience store with his wife and daughter, Hana. Instead of slicing people's heads off or sending bullets through their lungs, Sakamoto is now reshelving harbos on shelves and getting cats out of trees. Basically, he's a community and family man now, and no one in his small town even knows who he is in the first place. Unfortunately for Sakamoto, the battle shonen gods decided that he had rested a little too long and said, hey, you know what, let's add a little spice to his life. Within the first chapter, Sakamoto comes face to face with a mind-reading hitman named Shin, who informs Sakamoto that he has a 1 billion yen bounty on his head because he stepped out of the hitman world. Basically, he did what John Wick did. Unlike John Wick, however, Sakamoto doesn't resort to killing Shin when he comes to assassinate him. This is due to a promise he made with his wife, which states that he's basically not allowed to kill anyone anymore. This rule, along with a plethora of others, are basically Sakamoto's life code, as if he breaks any of them frequently, Aoi's gonna leave him, and for the sake of the planet, we cannot have that happening. So you might be thinking, how's this bushy mustache Home Depot enthusiast gonna take down literal trained assassins without killing them? Well, by subduing them in the goofiest way possible, of course. Due to Sakamoto's pedigree as an assassin, he can basically make weapons out of anything, and his resourcefulness is honestly one of the best parts of the series. Sakamoto's easily able to take out any assassin by using basic items in his convenience store, despite the fact that he has a whole stash of weapons in the back of it. He uses stuff like pebbles, pencils, stop signs, literally anything as a projectile or shield, and it works every single time. Like, if someone's shooting at Sakamoto, he literally spit out a piece of gum to deflect a literal bullet. He could probably take down an entire army with just a pencil. That's how creative Sakamoto is when it comes to fighting. So using his creativity, Sakamoto takes down Shin, and instead of getting rid of him, he just makes him his right-hand man in the convenience store. Yes, the mind reader is just a random clerk now. That's how unserious the series is, and I love it. The beginning of Sakamoto Days is basically Sakamoto and Shin fending off the assassins sent to kill Sakamoto for the bounty. As they do this, they get closer and closer to the point where they're like basically family. They also subdue other criminals who try to get Sakamoto, like Lu and Heisuke, and also work with them and have them basically join their small little, I'm a hitman but not really, family. It's super wholesome. The relationships between everyone in this little family also develops as the story goes on. Sakamoto comes to care for them and tries to not to put them in danger while they try to gain his trust and faith. I especially love how Sakamoto and Shin's relationship grows, and the fights that come with it are honestly really great. They work really well together since Sakamoto himself doesn't say much out loud, which means Shin's usually the only person who knows what Sakamoto's planning. This makes their tag team fights impossible to defend against, and their telepathy communication while trading blows will never get old for me. All the assassins who come to get Sakamoto all have different kinds of specialties, from bombs to poison, which makes each one of Sakamoto's fights so varied. There's also all kinds of wacky ass abilities he has to deal with, and he's always fighting in weird ass spots too, like in the middle of a roller coaster or during a movie screening. But this all happens super discreetly, so it's hilarious. Sakamoto also tries his best to keep all this danger away from his wife and kid as well, which means that there's a lot of times where he's just doing normal errands with them, but he has to fight elite hitmen in the background without anyone noticing. It's hilarious. Again, it's a lot like the stuff you see in John Wick. A whole series about Sakamoto and co fending off hitmen would be boring though, which is where the world building comes into play. We get to learn of the JAA, which is the Japanese Association of Assassins, which operates very much like a professional agency of assassins. They have 400 assassins in total who have graduated from the JCC, which is a professional school that the assassins go to. We also learn about the Order, which is an elite group amongst the JAA that basically carry out the agenda of the higher up. Basically, they're the gods of the hitman world, and you guessed it, Sakamoto used to be a member of it. A lot of Sakamoto Days is honestly Sakamoto doing his own thing while the Order does theirs, and since the Order is filled with so many entertaining goofballs, it works out. Sakamoto also ends up crossing paths with them time and time again, as they're both after a dude named Slur, who seems to be the overarching villain of the series. Basically, Sakamoto's fighting racism. Wait, no, wrong kind of slur. We're actually in the middle of a flashback arc with him right now, so I can't really say how great he'll be, but his build up so far has been really good. It's also great that Sakamoto has actual history with all of these top hitmen too, and I love how Suzuki's showing us how Sakamoto was back then as the story goes on. Speaking of Suzuki, let me get onto why Sakamoto Days is honestly so much fun to read, and that's mainly because of the art and the way combat is portrayed. It is so enjoyable to read because every single fight has crazy shit going on, but the way Suzuki illustrates it makes it really easy to follow. Choreography for every fight is always fresh, as we see Sakamoto do basic hand-to-hand combat with an assassin in a Ferris wheel to him wrestling a weaponized bear. The flow of each fight is honestly incredible, and the usage of the environment is some of the best I've seen in a shonen manga. Suzuki really gives each major character a specific fighting style and does them justice every single time, from Lou's drunken fist to Heisuke's bouncing bullets. Suzuki also drops the craziest pencil sketches you've ever seen mid-chapter, and they give me goosebumps every single time. I'm telling you, when Sakamoto gets an anime adaptation that does it justice, it's going to be easily one of the most entertaining franchises going on in Jump right now. Hop on the hype train while you can.